Hey everybody, DIY Coach Al over here at Lawn Care and Home Repair, and myself as well as many other YouTubers, amateurs, professionals have been talking to you about the importance of making sure you dial that fungicide application in. And I've already hit it my lawn in the last month with a round of azoxystrobin and propiconazole. I actually did the propiconazole first, then I came back 2 weeks later and did the azoxystrobin. Your fungicide application really does have to be based upon what the needs of your lawn is. I have actually been dealing with fungus. I don't know why, it just seems to be an abnormal amount of fungus that I have to deal with. But the last few weeks or so, we've actually gotten lots and lots and lots of rain. And today it's actually sunny, partly cloudy, but the temperature is only about 70 degrees. And really with the fungicide, I really do think that the best thing is to follow that 150 rule. And that's when your air temperature combined with the humidity is hovering around 150. Now that's the preventative. You want to do that to make sure you're preventing the fungus from coming up. If in fact you do get fungus and you put your fungicide down, make sure whatever product you use, azoxystrobin and propiconazole are the two, I think, big boys in the market. There are others that you can use, but if you have fungus, you want to make sure you hit it with the curative rate. Now, what I did was mixed up a batch of, I want to say I did propiconazole. As a matter of fact, I think I may put a little azoxy in it for the curative amount. And I keep that in a separate container so that when I see a spot or somewhere, I can go ahead and hit it with that curative rate that I have already mixed up. But also I'm going to make sure I'm hitting it with the preventative rate. Now I'm going to be coming out a little bit later today and put a mow on the yard. I had been dealing with brown patch before, but a few days ago I saw this, I was dealing with dollar spot before, but a few days ago I saw this brown patch and I went ahead and hit it with the curative rate of the propiconazole. And propiconazole is indicated for dollar spots. So when I hit it with the propiconazole, it didn't spread anywhere else. And because I had this spot, what I'm going to do now, it's been 2 weeks out since my last application. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and put down some more propiconazole at the preventative rate. So I'm going to go ahead and put a mow on the lawn, and then I'm going to not put it down right now because I'm not using this as a curative rate. I'm going to be using a flood jet tip on my backpack sprayer. I want this to get into the soil. I'm not worried about a foliar uptake, which I would normally use my fan jet for that, or maybe even my air induction spray tip nozzle for that one. But because I don't have anything else actively growing, last year, as I've said to you guys before, fungus just wiped out much of my front yard and my backyard. So of all the things I'm watching for this year, definitely keeping my fungicide application dialed in. And because over in this area right here, this is where this area of my lawn, from over here behind this tree all the way over to here, this part of my back lawn gets a lot of sunlight. And you guys, my very first video was on using Ornamic 170 because I had an outbreak of common Bermuda, which I had to use some glyphosate to get a lot of that up until I found the Ornamic. And if that didn't work, then I was going to go with the Fungicide. I saw Mr. Ferguson use a Fungicide and he just didn't have good results. And I think he said it was the rate that he did it, but it really did some damage to his plant. So I'm definitely making sure I'm keeping an eye on that fungicide. Temperature today is about 70 degrees. It's maybe the 27th or the 28th of May. The temperatures are getting ready to start going up. I implore you, please get your fungicide dialed in. It is definitely around that time to do that if you haven't started already. Now, folk up in the northern area, I believe Jesse at Lawn Life is up in Minnesota. And I think I'm not sure if the Lawn Amateur is up that way also. So you guys, temperatures may not be there yet. But in this part of the transition zone, we are already getting those temperatures. I know that Mr. Ferguson has already had a number of days in the 90s down where he is in Central Carolina. So make sure you get your fungicide application dialed in based upon what that temperature is like. Check the temperature, look and see what it's going to be for the next few days, because if in fact you have a combination of that heat and that humidity, you may find yourself trying to now do a curative rate. And once that disease hits your lawn, once that fungus hits your lawn, then there is no coming back from that in terms of being able to spray something on it and save that grass. You're gonna have to wipe that part out. And if you don't get it, it will definitely spread like that. And the other thing I do want to say, because I preach this quite often, make sure if you have active weeds growing in your yard, if you have active fungus growing in your yard, do not side shoot your clippings. You want to make sure you are bagging it. I know it's an extra step, but it's about making sure you're not helping those weeds and that fungus to spread throughout your lawn. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I got little mama over here fired up. She's ready to go. I haven't put any work in with little mama in a little bit now. And what I'm going to do with little mama today, we're going to go ahead. I already put a cut on the front yard and I use spicy for that. So we're going to go ahead and put some work in with little mama. And what I'm going to also do, I don't use this that often. This is one of those homemade striping kits I saw somebody do online, but I'm going to go ahead, attach this to little mama, and I'm going to mow the back and see if I could put some stripes on it with this. I really don't remember how it works, but hey, it was like an $11 kit versus the $100 that I used to get the roller for my ego. So I'm going to come back, put a mow on it, and then I'm going to come back and throw down some propiconazole. Be right back. So I went ahead, as I said, I'm using propiconazole. The name of this particular product is called Gunner. Appreciate you, Mr. Ferguson. I saw you recommend this last year. Got it off Amazon, and it's actually worked pretty well. And once again, guys, remember, whenever you're working with any kind of chemicals, you want to make sure you have your personal protection on. I've also worked in hospital ERs for much of my life, and I actually did catch something, C. difficile toxin. I caught and had some really serious gastro issues because of that. So wearing your PPE, as they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Make sure you have your gloves on, your eye protection. So anyway, the other thing, as I said, I'm going to do is hit it with some 16-4-8 Simple Lawn Solutions. This is one of the first fertilizers, liquid fertilizers I bought when I bought my tank to tank mix. And no, I don't have a Petra, I don't have an Ego, I have a Ryobi. She has been working for me, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I've already put my propiconazole in, and the rate for the Simple Lawn Solution calls for 4 ounces per gallon of water per 1,000 square feet. I went a little heavier on it because you can't see it, but the grass is definitely yellowing, so a little extra is not going to hurt. Now what I did was, as I always do, fill my tank halfway with water, get my product in, and then I want to use my mixer. I'm just going to mix it now, just a little bit now. And if you don't know, one of the easiest ways to find out if you can tank mix a product is to actually put those two products in a glass jar, shake it up, and then just let it sit for a while. If one of the products rises to the top or sinks to the bottom, then you know that you can't tank mix that. But as I said, I've already tank mixed this propiconazole and the azoxystrobin along with the Simple Lawn Solution. So I know that they can be tank mixed. Sometimes I'll also put a little bit of marker dye in here, but I've been doing this for a while now, and I'm pretty comfortable with just eyeballing it when I'm going back and forth. So we have our product mixed up, and once again, I'm going to go ahead and use my mixer. And you don't have to have a fancy mixer for this. This is my paint mix that I have when I'm mixing paint and mud. when I'm doing my construction type stuff, home renovation. So we got it all mixed up. Once again, this does have a side, C-I-D-E, kill, death. This has a fungicide, so you want to be very careful with using those products. Okay, so we want to make sure that our cap is on here nice and tight. And as I said before, maybe earlier in the video, in a previous video, you can actually use your fungicide for foliar uptake where you wanted to stick to that plant. If I were doing that, then I would put a surfactant in here, a non-ionic surfactant, because I'd want it to stick to the blade. This I want to get in the soil. I want the fungicide to get into the soil, and I also want the fertilizer to get into the soil. So I'm not going to be using a fan tip. I'm going to be using a flood jet. And it's kind of windy out here today. The flood jet is going to give you those heavier droplets. That's not going to stick as much to the grass, but it's going to hit the soil. It's going to hit hit the soil. And later on, and now because it's calling for rain today, I don't have to run my irrigation system. I'm going to just let Mother Nature do that for me. But if it weren't as windy, instead of using the flood jet, I could also use an air induction tip. And that one, it gives you that fine mist, but it also has droplets with it. It's not going to be as heavy as a straight flood jet tip. But because I want this to get directly in the soil, I'm going to be using this flood jet tip. Now, at my age, at 58 years old, I'm not going to be lifting this thing up from the floor. So I put it right here so that I can get this on my back very easily. I learned a long time ago, when you get older, you have to work smarter and not just harder. But I'm just gonna go ahead and turn this on, and I'm gonna put this on at a higher rate because I really want this to get as much into the soil as I can. So I'm just gonna go out here now. I'm gonna put the product down, be right back. Hey, so I hope that you can hear this, but one of the things I wanted to point out was that I mentioned earlier that you don't need an expensive backpack sprayer to do this. The reality is, whenever you're doing lawn care and you're really trying to get good green grass, the number one thing that you need is good lawn seed. Some seeds that you can buy in the big box stores, they're okay for what it's worth. There's nothing wrong with using what we commonly call an inferior seed, but unless you're going to go with an elite blend of a seed like Scott or Pennington, and they do make, I know Pennington makes an elite type seed, but you cannot get more out of your lawn than the genetics of the cultivar, the seed that you're using. In this lawn, I used Jonathan Green Turf Type Tall Fescue. So that is going to give me a darker green so that I don't have to put as much like urea and some other things to green it up. Now, those things will green up any grass, but it's going to be temporary. I mentioned the backpack sprayer because this particular sprayer from Ryobi, I want to say I paid maybe $150, maybe less than that, because I already had the 4 amp hour batteries that go with it. But I say that you don't need an expensive backpack sprayer because all of them they're going to put out products. I've actually found that the tip is more important. As long as you can get an even rate of flow. Now, when you use the pump sprayers, that can be inconsistent because as the pressure goes out of that tank, you're going to get less flow. So a battery powered backpack sprayer is going to give you more consistency. But a $119 Ryobi is going to do basically the same thing as a $400 Milwaukee or a $300 or $400 Ego backpack sprayer. Now, I'm not knocking it because I actually have all those products, but for different things. My point is, sometimes when you're doing lawn care, yard care, you can see what the DIYs and the professionals are using, and you may want to go out and spend that kind of money. I'm saying you don't need to do that in order to get a healthy lawn. The number one most important thing to get established and maintain a healthy lawn is actually going to be the quality of that grass seed. Now, I mentioned earlier, I'm going to either burn this up later on this year, or I'm going to do an overseeding with the night shift over Jesse shop over at Lawn Life. That is elite. It has zero weed seed in it. I believe it's what's called Blue Certified. Don't quote me on that because I may be mistaken. But if you want to get a good lawn, you don't have to go out and buy excuse me, expensive equipment. You want to make sure that you have a good grass seed, and you want to make sure that you are watering that grass. Now, hitting with everything, the root growth stimulant, seed kelp, and all those things, that's wonderful, but nothing is going to make up for an inferior grass seed. I'm putting this down because whenever you have a cultivar like a turf type tall fescue, unfortunately that perennial rye, they're more susceptible to lawn disease. So this becomes necessary as a preventative measure. But I just wanted to emphasize you don't have to get anything expensive except your grass seed. Be right back. Alrighty guys, so I am finished. And another thing I wanted to point out, whenever you're using a backpack sprayer, or any kind of sprayer, you want to make sure you put the label amount down on your plant to make sure it's absorbing all the nutrients or getting all the fungicide or whatever else fert that you're putting down. So you want to walk at a nice steady walk. I guess it's like maybe a little slower than you would normally walk if you were on the street. But if you find out, once you've measured out your square footage and you've put the product in and mixed it at the proper rate with the water, if you have some product left in the bag, then just walk back, go back over. Don't go outside that area. You don't want to dilute the product. Walk back over that square footage you've already marked off and just continue to put your product down. And what you may have noticed, I didn't point it out before, as I said before, I'm using a flood jet tip on here. I was holding it close to the ground. It is a little windy out here today, and I was listening to my music, and I kind of put it at about maybe 8 inches off, maybe a foot off the ground at one point. And as I looked, I can see that the product was misting out a little bit, so I had to angle it back down again. I was walking with it maybe 5-6 inches from the ground, not much more than that, but this is it. Next week I'm going to come back and, as I said, maybe put some just urea down, because as I was walking I can see just how starved the lawn is for the nitro. So I'm kind of glad I went at a heavier rate. As a matter of fact, maybe in a few more weeks I'll see how it greens up, but maybe in a few more weeks I'll come out and just hit it with maybe some 8 or 10-0-0, just some nitrogen and not any phosphorus or potassium. But I'm done with this. It's fun. Taking care of your lawn should be fun, shouldn't be stressful. And it also shouldn't be too expensive. Yes, if you want to get a yard that looks like some of those you see on YouTube, it's going to cost you a little more. This should be fun. My family came over for Memorial Day, and they just could not stop talking about my lawn. Unfortunately, they played cornhole on it. I can see some flat spots on it, so I'm going to have to fluff that up a little bit. But hey, I just want you to know I really appreciate you guys. Love interacting with my subscribers. I haven't looked at the analytics to see how many people or the percentage of people who subscribe when you watch the videos, but if the content of this video is helpful at all, please do DIY Coach Al a favor. I'm really trying to build my channel because I really want to help you get that lawn that you want. If you would please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button over there. I think I'm going to place it right over there. And also I'm going to put a video up here on the equipment that you definitely need to have if you want to get your lawn popping. DIY Coach Al out. If nobody else told you today, let me be the first to tell you. Retired pastor DIY Coach Al is saying, I love you. Have a good day.